It's the Broncos and the Chiefs from Arrowhead. Let's welcome in the third member of our crew on the sideline and say good afternoon to Steve Tasker.
Thanks, Kevin. Yesterday we spoke with Von Miller, the outside linebacker of the Denver Broncos. He said, hey, this game is a turning point for us. Yeah, we broke a 4-game losing streak last week in Arizona, but we've lost 6 straight to Kansas City. We need this game if our season's going forward. Both these teams come into this game depending on the big play. Offensively, the Chiefs have 44 plays of plus 20 yards on offense, and the Denver Broncos have 36. That ranks 1 and 4 in the league. But also they rank in the bottom 5 of giving those plays up. Guys, this game looks like the ball is going to be flying all over Arrowhead Stadium today.
There is a bit of a breeze, Steve, to deal with. We'll talk about that as we go on. The Chiefs have won the toss. They have deferred, and the Broncos will receive. Harrison Butker is ready to kick off, and deep back is Adam Jones. Chiefs, Broncos, and away we go on CBS. It'll be a touchback to the 25 over the head of Jones, which takes us to the quarterback for the Denver Broncos, Case Keenum, in his 6th season out of Houston.
Well, Kevin, you mentioned the open 11-3 with the Vikings last season. He won a playoff game, and he had just 8 turnovers, and that's the biggest concern I think that Vance Joseph and Bill Musgrave, the offensive coordinator, have with Keenan right now. He's got to do a better job of taking care of the football in the pocket.
Philip Lindsay is the running back. It's 1st and 10. Lindsay the call, the rookie free agent with a good block. Hireman gave it, and he gets out to beyond the 30. About a gain of 5 on the play. There's a change on their offensive line today because of Valdir's injury. Billy Turner will be starting again at that right tackle. You see the others right there. Bowles have started every game as a pro. And the guys he fires at, he talked, Rich did, in the open about Emmanuel Sanders. Inactive today, Royce Freeman with an ankle. So Lindsay gets the start. 2nd down and 5. Demaryius Thomas with a drop on a ball thrown to bitten back of him with the coverage on the play by Ron Parker. 3rd down and 5. Kansas City's defense today. On that line, the 2 mainstays, Jones and Bailey. Noddy is a rookie out of Florida State. Justin Houston will not play today. Breeland Speaks will be in there starting for him. He is a rookie. The secondary is tough. 3rd down and 5. Led by Ron Parker in the secondary. The running back is Devontae Booker. With the draw play on the handoff to the 34, gain of 3. Brought down on the play, and it looked like Anthony Hitchens was the one to wrap him up and bring him down, getting some help from Ford, and a punting situation on Denver's first try.
Well, the first meeting between these 2 teams, Denver just 2 of 11 on 3rd down. 3rd down is going to be key. I think this is where Case Keenum needs to be at his best today.
So Weidman is going to punt after a 3-and-out for Denver. Tyreek Hill is number 3 in punt returns in the NFL. Hill from the 24, hang of 3.75. He's a blur when he gets going. He finds room up the sideline near the 37-yard line. Gain of 12, 43-yard punt. This takes us to 2nd-year quarterback Patrick Mahomes.
It's really amazing. I find it hard to believe, Kevin, this is just his 9th career start. When you look at his production, his consistency, I think he just plays the game so fast from the pocket, the way he processes information. And Andy Reid talked about it. Even their defensive coordinator Bob Sutton talked about his vision. They said it's uncanny. He sees so much of the field. And that just that normally takes some time for a young quarterback, but right now he's making it look very easy.
It's a 1st and 10, and Kareem Hunt, who led the NFL rushing a season ago, got near the 39 and a pickup of 2 on the play and hit inside by Chubb and others. There's a change at center for the Chiefs. It's their 3rd different starting center in 3 weeks. Austin Reeder will take over for Mitch Morris, who has got a concussion. Last week it was DeVee, and he's out with a torn pec. And look at the terrific guys he can go to. Kelsey, an all-pro tight end. Watkins is at the bottom of your screen. Second down and 8. Mahomes chased by Chubb and brought down awkwardly. Back at the 37 and a loss of 2 on the play. Richie kind of bends him backwards like Gumby.
I've been so impressed with Bradley Chubb. He had 2 sacks last week. You just look at him playing the edge. You forget about how good of a run defender he is. And Mahomes has got some speed. I think in that situation, Mahomes would have been better served to hand the football to Kareem Hunt.
Denver's got 6 in the secondary. 3rd down and 10.
This is where the Chiefs have to do a good job. Their 2 tackles handling the edge pressure that Denver can generate with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb.
We're in the backfield, 3rd and 10. Mahomes being chased by, look at him, Miller and Chubb right on his heels. They pressure him right there. The Chiefs do not score on their opening drive for the first time this season. The punting unit is out there.
Well, here they are. And again, this is the challenge, I think, for both Fisher and Schwartz, the 2 tackles for the Chiefs. I mean, this is an all-day task, trying to slow down 2 of the better pass rushers in all of football.
So to punt will be Dustin Colquitt, who's had just 1 punt in the last 2 games for the Chiefs. That shows you how exciting this offense has been. Deep back is Isaiah McKenzie. Looks into that bright Missouri sun from the 9. Hang of 4.78. Just elevated off the practice squad. And McKenzie takes it for 10 and a punt of 54. Chubb, the rookie, putting his fingerprints on this one already. He's being pressured, runs to the far side. He goes a left-handed pass. It's caught by Hill. He pulls a Houdini. It's a handoff, and it goes over the left tackle. And Hunt is into the end zone, and the Chiefs are going to win it. The Chiefs are going to win it. Denver blew a 10-point fourth-quarter lead in that one earlier on, Rich.
Yeah, and really, Vance Joseph didn't feel like they were aggressive enough on offense in the first game, and that they didn't challenge the Kansas City corners enough with some of the matchups in the passing game.
Lindsey will take it outside. And look at him breaking tackles. He's been terrific. Bowles leading the way. Stopped by a couple over there, including Ragland on a gain of 7. He's up to the 26.
And in talking to Vance Joseph last night, as well as offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave, they really like their 3 receivers, Sanders, Thomas, and Sutton, matched up with any of the Kansas City corners. And I just think you've got to challenge them and make them defend the deep ball early.
Second down and 3. Lindsey, who grew up in Denver, went to Denver South High School, drilled right there. Again, it's Hitchens coming in, their leading tackler, and limits him to a gain of 1 to the 27.
Well, this Kansas City defense has had their issues stopping the run. A lot of the big runs have come up in between the tackles. And, Lindsey's not the biggest back, but he's pound for pound a tough guy who's more than willing to go in there and do the dirty work. Good look at defensive coordinator Bob Sutton. And there's really no secret what you're going to get with him. He'll crowd the line of scrimmage to stop the run. He's going to play a lot of press, man-to-man coverage, and force Case Keenum to make a lot of contested throws in traffic.
Booker is the running back. Kansas City sits with 4 in the secondary. 3rd down and 2. Look at the run by Booker. A beauty. Brought down by Jordan Lucas in the secondary. Gain of 10 on 3rd and 2 to the 37. First down.
Well, this is a good looking run. You get the kick out block, and we talked about some of these big holes up inside. You see Garcia, he comes around the corner, and before you know it, the back's up on the second level. We'll see more of Devontae Booker today because of the injury, obviously, to Freeman. Both of those backs should be busy against a Kansas City defense that's ranked dead last in total defense.
Couple tight ends, Lindsey in the backfield and on the move. Case Keenum 1st and 10. Bowles a block, Turner a block. Time for Keenum downfield. He's got Sanders wide open near the 15. He was working on Ron Parker. He's tackled at the 14. It's a gain of 49.
Well, you look at Kendall Fuller in position, really 2 deep coverage. So you've got Fuller there, Kevin, as you mentioned, Parker, and Sanders he's able to get by both of them. I think what happened is that both defensive backs had their eyes in the backfield thinking that possibly Keenum was going to run with the football. Instead, he decides to throw it deep downfield to their best receiver right now, Emmanuel Sanders.
And that's the longest play the Chiefs defense has given up this season from scrimmage. 1st and 10, Lindsey in the backfield. Couple tight ends. Demaryius Thomas chased by Speaks inside the 5, and he gets down there and ushered out by Lucas. Put him at the 4, close to a 1st down, almost 10 on the play.
And Bill Musgrave told us last night they need to feature more boots and nakeds with Case Keenum. He likes them and he's good at it. He throws the ball really well on the move outside the pocket. They've got to find ways to get Demaryius Thomas more touches. He is a big physical receiver that can really separate and create some big plays, especially in this part of the field with his size.
Lindsey and Janovich in the eye, 1st and goal. Janovich a block. Lindsey knifes his way near the goal line. Put him at the 1 on a gain of 3.
Well, I like teams, Kevin, that carry a fullback and are committed to running the football. And the Broncos do that. That's what they do best right now. They're 8th in rushing. They're averaging over 125 yards on the game on the ground with a couple really good young backs.
With both of these teams struggling in the red zone on offense and defense, as you saw. 2nd down, goal at the 1. 3 tight ends held by Keenum. Looks, fires, and over the head of Hireman with the coverage by Frank Zombo in the back of the end zone. 3rd and goal for Denver on their 2nd possession.
And sometimes the best play, the only play, is to throw it away and move on. This is a shot play on 1st down. They don't fool him, and so Keenum does the next best thing. He throws it away and moves on.
Big 3rd down. 3rd and goal. Lindsey following Janovich in for 6. 1-yard touchdown run. Early statement made by Denver. Set up on a 49-yard pass to Emmanuel Sanders. And Keenum takes him in with a touchdown run of a yard by Lindsey.
Well, so important not to fall behind early on the road against the #1 scoring offense in football. And this is just what they needed. A real shot in the arm to an offense that's had some problems getting off the fast starts.
Lindsey is the 3rd leading rookie rusher in pro football. Set records at Colorado. It's 7-0 with that extra point there by Brandon McManus. Long drive. Sanders hauled one in, breaking free from 49 yards. And then Lindsey with the block by Janovich in for 6 for the Broncos.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Domino's. Order online at Domino's.com. Uber. Doors are always opening. And by Verizon. The best unlimited is on Verizon, America's most awarded network.
Lots of great barbecue here in Kansas City, including Joe's and Q39 and Jack Stack. That was a heck of a drive by Denver the 2nd time they've had the ball. So now the kickoff. Brandon McManus, he'll send it off to Tremon Smith, a rookie and a 6th-round pick out of Central Arkansas from the 5. Smith has got some speed, as you can see, and the kicker brings him down. McManus. 23-yard return. Here we go with that pressure from these two guys.
I think the key is keeping Patrick Mahomes in the pocket where he belongs. Almost a quarter of his passing yards have come from outside the pocket, including a lot of the big plays. And I think their ability to pressure Mahomes, force him to make quick decisions. But it starts with the 2 pass rushers, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. You look at them between them, they've got 14 sacks already. The hits, the hurries, the knockdowns, the pressures, it all adds up.
Here comes Mahomes on 1st and 10 and throws a dart to Kelsey. Brought down by Roby and into Denver territory. 15-yard pickup to the 48.
Well, the play action, the RPOs on 1st down are a big part of the Chiefs' attack. And Kelsey, he is one of the best tight ends in all of football.
Three-time Pro Bowler. He's had 3 100-yard games already this season.
Led all tight ends with 83 receptions a season ago.
Mahomes 1st and 10. He's going to hit Marcus Robinson right here, and a gain of 1 on the play, and brought down by Chris Harris out of Kansas, and a flag thrown.
I really enjoy watching Chris Harris play. I think he's their best cover corner right now. Gives him a lot of versatility. He can play inside, he can play outside. He's a great tackler.
Ed Hockley's son, Sean Hockley, a first-year referee, is in charge of this crew today. Doing his dad proud, who usually tries to attend a lot of these games on the road where his son is officiating. But Sean is carrying on the Hockley name.
Personal foul, crackback block, offense, number 27. 15-yard penalty from
Kareem
the
Hunt.
spot. Replay, first down.
That's on Kareem Hunt. They're running back with a look at Andy Reid in his 6th season.
I was talking to Joe Woods last night, a defensive coordinator for the Broncos, and I asked him what makes Andy Reid a good play caller. He said, look, he's not afraid to try different things. He's a West Coast system type of guy, but I think he's adapted and incorporated some of the college spread game. I think he's adjusted his system really to fit his players' strengths, and that's the sign of a very good play caller.
Broncos have 4 in the secondary. That means the linebacker, Chubb, will come out and guard. Now they bring in Jewell over there. 1st and 25. Now Jewell goes back in. Rookie out of Iowa.
Okay.
There goes a flag. There goes Mahomes. Right through the hands of Kelsey. Incomplete. Back there watching him was Parks. He had a lot of guys on his tail. Another flag thrown.
Offside. Defense number 55. 5-yard penalty. Replay, first down.
Well, he's just going to get Bradley Chubb just trying to jump that snap count. You play against really good pass rushers like Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. You have to constantly change up the cadence and your snap count to give those 2 tackles, Schwartz and Fisher, a chance to function.
As we mentioned, the tackles have not allowed a sack. The Kansas City tackles have not allowed a sack all season. Now 1st and 20. There's some deception and the chase by Chubb and Shaq Barrett, and he throws it away again. The pressure is there from this Denver D on Patrick Mahomes.
Well, they're forcing Mahomes to move, and that's going to be important. And talking to the Broncos last night, they said that they've got a better rush plan. You've got to mix it up with Mahomes. I think 5- and 6-man pressures and rushes, because you just can't give him a lane to run through. I think you just waste your time with a quarterback like Mahomes if you just rush 3 and 4 all day.
Tremaine Brock is in the secondary. 2nd down and 20. Mahomes deep on the sideline and getting caught up over there with Sammy Watkins. There was coverage by Roby and a flag.
This is just an example of a corner panicking. There's really no reason for Bradley Roby to grab.
Defense number 29. The ball will be placed at the spot of the foul. First down.
Just watch Bradley Roby. He's in great position, right? He does everything right. Now right there he panics. He's trying to find the ball. He's got him up on the sidelines. He did everything right there except turn around and find the ball and not let go. You cannot allow any of these chief receivers to get by in the secondary. They've got real unique speed. You look at Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. If they get by you, you're probably not going to be able to catch them.
17-yard Denver penalty. Put it at the Bronco 40 with a 1st and 10. Fake to Hunt. Time for Mahomes. Laces one downfield for Watkins. And the coverage again by Roby. 5th-year player out of Ohio State. Incomplete. 2nd down and 10.
Well, the offensive line, Kevin, as you mentioned, has been a real bright spot for the Chiefs. In fact, they've probably been overlooked in this whole process. They're the #1 scoring offense. They're top 5 in passing, top 10 in rushing, and they've given up the fewest sacks in the league so far this season, just 8, and that's pretty impressive when you consider the amount of times Mahomes has dropped back to throw the football.
Chiefs are coming off a game here Sunday night against Cincinnati where they had 551 yards of total offense. 2nd down and 10. Still the 4 in the secondary, and another throw right here. Nice catch made by Sammy Watkins. Roby was there, down to the 31, gain of 9.
We talk about the importance of anticipation for a quarterback. So many of these throws, and you watch Mahomes, the ball's out of his hands before the receiver is even out of the break. And so if you're Sammy Watkins or Tyreek Hill, you better get your head around in a hurry because you know that ball's coming. Not a lot of wasted motion when you study the release of Patrick Mahomes. He gets it up and out very quickly.
3rd down 1. Here's the pitch. It's Hunt to the 24. Josie Jewell was there with a stop. Gain of 7 on 3rd and 6 and a first down.
Well, I talked about the ability to do some different things from the quarterback's perspective. How about a little bit of an option? It's not necessarily a West Coast thing, but Andy Reid does it because he trusts the quarterback to make a good decision and not hold the football.
Broncos told us last night, Rich, the top priority, stop Kansas City running back Kareem Hunt. It all begins with him.
And you can't get so focused and consumed with stopping Mahomes that you forget about one of the best running backs in football, Kareem Hunt.
1st and 10. They pinch the corners. He throws. Caught! Grabbed by Hill. Simmons with the coverage and the tackle on a 21-yard strike to the 3 and a 1st and goal.
Well, Tyreek Hill can go 0 to 60 in a split second. I mean, and he has the ability to make you miss, and if he gets by, you're just not going to catch him. He's not the biggest receiver. You know, he used to be a one-trick pony, and talking to some of the Denver coaches, he's become a complete receiver. He's got the entire route tree, and he's got 12 catches of 20 or more. Now that makes 13.
False start, it looks like.
False start. Offense, number 17. 5-yard penalty. First down.
That's wide receiver Chris Conley called right there.
Well, the Chiefs have to do a better job with the penalties. It's been a problem through the first 7 games as a team. They've got 58 penalties so far. That's tied for 30th. They've already had 3 games with 10 or more. It's tough to win when you keep shooting yourself in the foot.
2 tight ends, 1st and goal at the 8. Mahomes. And Kelsey could not find the handle. Over there was Will Parks among a couple. Watching the all-pro tight end. Incomplete. It'll be 2nd down and goal.
Well, they'll continually change up the looks when you look at trying to cover Travis Kelsey. Sometimes it'll be a corner. Sometimes it'll be a safety. Sometimes it'll be a linebacker. And at times maybe even a combination of a couple of them. Because he is a handful. And you cannot allow him a clean release off the line of scrimmage.
Hey, come on, right there. On the line,
2nd down and goal at the 8. Here comes Mahomes. He's got Hunt, who's out at the 5. Gain of 4. 3rd and goal for the Chiefs, who have gotten this far, and a pass to Kelsey for 15, a pass of 21 to Hill.
And here's the coaching point, Kevin. Give it to him sooner. You look at he's open now. Give it to him now. Throw it to him right now. Don't wait. And you see, for some reason, his eyes are in the wrong place. He waits, and now they just run out of real estate on the boundary. But if you would have gotten that ball to him earlier in the process, that would have been a walk-in for Kareem Hunt.
Nickel secondary. 3rd and goal at the 4. Watkins in motion. It's a handoff to Hunt. There's a block by Hill, but a great tackle made by Will Parks. Gain of 3 on 3rd and goal at the 4. They're at the 1.
Well, this is a great tackle, Kevin. This is not an easy back to get on the ground, but watch how violently Parks comes from the secondary. It's a great open field tackle by the safety, Will Parks.
Rich, you like him going for it here on 4th and goal at the 1?
It's less than a yard, Kevin. You've got to be able to trust the process. It's a very good offensive line, and you've got a really good back that can do a lot of the dirty work himself.
Oh, they mess up, and there goes the flag. Bad exchange. There is a new center today, Ryder.
False start. Offense, number 77. 5-yard penalty. 4th down.
That's the Chiefs' 3rd penalty on this drive.
And it's also the Chiefs' 3rd different center to start a game this season. And Mitch Moore still in the concussion protocol. Jordan Devey started in his place and went on IR on Monday, and now they turn to Austin Ryder. Denver needs to be able to dominate inside without two starters along that Kansas City offensive line.
Harrison Butker will try the 24-yard field goal. And he sends it through. They had first and goal at the 3. They settled for a field goal. That is a win for the Denver D. 2:18 first quarter on CBS. Rich, this is something you noticed on your tape study. Reed always goes over and talks with his young quarterback after every series.
Yeah, he didn't do a lot of it, Kevin, with Alex Smith last year. Did it with Donovan McNabb in Philadelphia when he was a younger quarterback. But I think this is important time to be able to go over there and hear what the quarterback's saying and be able to share some ideas and thoughts and concepts that you think you may get to. And I think it's a good calming way to really make sure that Mahomes feels comfortable with the game plan.
After his 24-yard field goal that put the Chiefs on the board, the kick to Adam Jones. He'll take it 5 yards deep, and here goes Jones. With a spin, he can be electrifying at times, and he's just shy of the 20 on a return of 21. Next Saturday, the SEC on CBS will feature an SEC East showdown with Georgia battling Kentucky at 3:30 Eastern. Then in prime time, two of the best in the country collide. Number 1 Alabama, number 4 LSU in Baton Rouge. Tigers looking for their 4th win against a top 10 opponent this season. So expect an intense battle from the best teams in the best conference. It's like an SEC semifinal. You got the best teams back-to-back games next Saturday on CBS from the 19. With Lindsey on the move and Janovich in the backfield. Case Keenum 1st and 10 and across the middle. He's got Thomas to the 30 and brought down by Jordan Lucas with a gain of 11 and a first down to the 30.
As a quarterback, I always like these bigger receivers on slant routes. It's an easy target for Case Keenum, especially when he's lined up inside the numbers. But at 6'3" at 230 pounds, that's a pretty good target for Keenum.
Case Keenum's biggest game against the Rams when he went for 322 through the air. Seattle had 3 touchdown passes against the Jets, the best all season, 377 through the air. Booker in the game gets the call, 1st and 10. Into the secondary. Look at him bulldoze his way up to the 38-yard line and brought down by former Cowboy Anthony Hitchens. It's a gain of 8 to the 38.
Well, we talked about what they do best, and it's run the football, and yet they haven't really done it enough. You look at those rush attempts and yards per rush. And the key, I think, is that number 25, Kevin. They're a perfect 3-0 in games this season where they rush it 25 or more times, and they're winless when they don't. And so you know that's going to be a point of emphasis today, especially against a Kansas City defense that's had some challenges stopping the run.
It's 2nd down and 2. Booker is in there, escapes one, has the first down as he twists his way into the grasp of Jordan Lucas on a gain of 4 to the 42. Our first trip to CBS in New York, and here's James and Nate.
Nate, the setup.
That's right, and here it is right here. Andy Dalton looking for Tyler Boyd, and check out this play right here. Gets up the sideline and extends, comes up just short. But what do you got to do? You go a little pass, a little run. You're mixing it up. 7-0 Cincinnati.
Something Kevin Harlan does well. Sets up.
Thank you. Thank you. Cincinnati struggled here last Sunday night, Rich, against these Chiefs.
They got blown out, Kevin, and Chiefs defense actually played probably their best game of the season.
It's an end around to Patrick. And from the side, he's brought down by Reggie Ragland. Chased after a gain of 13 on the end around, or in that case, a tight end around. Takes it into Kansas City's 42. A 1-yard touchdown run by Lindsey. Denver feels a win today could turn their season around against the first-place Chiefs on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Progressive Insurance, handing off big savings to you. And by Chipotle, for real.
Faulkner's Ranch here in Kansas City, another great place. Red Barn Farm, north of the Kansas City airport. You see the rushing yards for the Broncos after 1 quarter. Here they go, 1st and 10, starting the 2nd quarter on CBS. Deep drop by Keenum. Wide open, his receiver, Emmanuel Sanders. Flag has been thrown as he was working on the far side. 21-yard gain. This is against Denver, it looks like.
You might get Sanders for pushing off.
Nelson was back there. Sean Hockley, our referee.
There were fouls by both teams on the play. Pass interference, offense number 10. Before the pass was thrown, holding, defense number 20. Those fouls offset, replay, first down.
Well, Kendall Fuller was back there on the coverage. The guy they got in the Alex Smith trade from Washington. Watch it again and see Nelson at the other end.
That's an obvious hold.
Yeah.
And when you went back and looked at the first one of Emmanuel Sanders, it totally wasn't necessary. I mean, he's got the corner. Kendall Fuller turned around and have an easy completion on the boundary.
Chiefs have the nickel. Lindsey in the backfield. 1st and 10. Keenum. And he's chased by Speaks, and he gets it outside for Sanders, who looks for a Turner block, and he's inside the 45. Over there, Xavier Williams with a gain of a yard to the Kansas City 44.
Well, the Broncos had 3 extra days to prepare after their easy win at Arizona last Thursday night, and I think it's always helpful from a recovery standpoint for the players, but also I think from a game planning standpoint, a chance for Keenum to really go back and study that Week 4 loss to the Chiefs, go back and really watch probably all 7 games that this Kansas City defense has played. Really put yourself in a position to have a good beat on what they're going to do defensively.
Still in the nickel on the 2nd 9, and Lindsey breaks free into the secondary. Brought down from behind by Jordan Lucas, a 22-yard romp, and put him at the 22. Another flag is down. This is a hold on Denver, wiping out a 22-yard run.
2nd down.
They just watched the hold from McGovern. They're in good position. He just grabs a hold of that right or left shoulder of Xavier Williams, and that's the big reason why Philip Lindsay had a big crease up inside.
Broncos did feel, though, Rich, as they told us last night, that running the ball and working on the Kansas City cornerbacks would be their 2 main priorities on offense this afternoon.
Exactly. And all of these Bronco running backs are very good with yards after contact. They don't go down without a fight, and they keep their legs and feet moving at contact.
2nd down, long 15. Booker in the backfield. Outside they go to the tight end, Lacoste. Out of bounds, he's run near the Kansas City 44. A catch and run, a 6 by Matt Lacoste out of Illinois. And over there was Orlando Scandrick.
You know, when we sat down with Keenum last night and Vance Joseph, their head coach, Bill Musgrave, they all said the same thing, that they really feel like they match up well. They've got favorable matchups. They need to run it well. They need to mix in the play action game, which is something Keenum's really good at. But they also need to take some shots outside the numbers with their receivers versus all this man-to-man coverage.
Booker is in, 6 in the secondary. 3rd and 9 for Case Keenum. Blocked by Bulls. Time for Case Keenum, and incomplete for Sanders. Another flag has been thrown. Sanders drawing a lot of attention down the middle and deep.
Well, it's really no...
Before the pass was thrown, holding, defense number 22. 5-yard penalty, automatic, 1st down.
That's Scandrick.
And a lot of these holds, Kevin, are away from the throw. You look at Scandrick matched up on the rookie Sutton, and he just grabs a hold of him and can't do that. If there's a weakness right now with this Chiefs defense, I think it's their secondary. You know, not having Eric Berry back there really hurts. Daniel Sorensen, who's back on the practice field this week, who was on IR. He's a veteran guy. I think it's hurt their communication as well.
Booker in, 5 in the secondary now. Keenum. And deep with coverage on Hireman, the tight end. He had a couple back there, including Parker and Jordan Lucas.
Oh, Hireman, the tight end, working on the safety, Ron Parker. Pretty good coverage.
Broncos began this drive at their 19. They got a pass of 11 to Thomas, a 13-yard run by Patrick, 8-yard run by Booker, a 22-yard run by Lindsey was wiped away. 2nd down and 10. Lindsey with a block by McGovern. And he hits the sideline, but with a nice gain on the play for the Denver offense of 8 right there.
Well, I really like this rookie running back, Philip Lindsay. Not very big. He's only 5'8", 190 pounds, undrafted out of Colorado. And he took the time to pick up the phone and ask Terrell Davis if he could wear his jersey. I thought that was a pretty cool story, but this guy's the real deal. I'm just telling you, he's talented. He's a straight downhill player. It's not afraid to stick it up in there between the tackles.
2 tight ends, Lindsey in 3rd down 2. Sanders is taken down. Tano Passanio, a former 2nd-round pick, throws him for a loss of 6. Back to the 37.
Yeah, you just see penetration. Not a very good block at the point of attack from the tight end, Matt Lacoste.
Well, here comes Brandon McManus with a bit of a breeze out of the Northwest. This will be a 55-yard field goal try. McManus 2 of 2 from 50 or more this year. He's been a perfect 11 of 11. And perfect in PATs at 18 of 18. And a timeout taken. Denver will take it. Coming in at 3-4, 3rd place in the AFC West, 1-2 on the road. They clobbered Arizona, Rich, last Thursday, 45-10, after losing their previous 4 games. And Vance Joseph told us in his 2nd year as the head coach that may have kind of lit the fuse, but today could ignite the turnaround.
And I think, look, obviously to go on the road and beat up on the Arizona, the 1-win Arizona Cardinals is one thing, but to go on the road again in the division against a 6-1 team, they get a win here today, Kevin, and get back to 500. Things will look a whole lot different for the Broncos in the 2nd half of the season.
McManus, one of 2 kickers who has not missed a field goal this season or a PAT, misses his first right there from 55 with some wind at Arrowhead. And Keenum and Joseph come up with nothing. They hold on to a 7-3 lead. 2nd quarter, Arrowhead on CBS. Slow start in Kansas City offense this afternoon.
Really unusual. You look at that number there. They've raced off to fast starts on offense. They've really outscored their opponents 72-19 in the 1st quarter this season. They scored on opening drives in each of their last 9 games dating back to last season. And yet today, they can't find a way to get it going against a very good Denver defense.
That included the 1st quarter today in that game back in early October. 1st and 10, some play action. They dump it out to Hunt, and with a good read on it was Shaq Barrett with a gain of 1. He's just beyond the 45. Nice play by Shaq Barrett, the 5th-year linebacker out of Colorado State, and Steve Tasker's on the sideline.
Kevin, you and Rich have been talking about the center, Austin Ryder, who's the 3rd starting center for the Chiefs. We spoke to defensive coordinator for the Broncos, Joe Wood, yesterday. He said in his observations, he's noticed the offensive line of the Chiefs has covered up a multitude of sins by Patrick Mahomes. They've made him correct in his pass protections on a number of occasions. That safety net may not be there today with Austin Ryder.
Steve, thank you. 2nd down and 9 for Mahomes. Quick slant, here comes Tyreek Hill. He breaks 1 tackle with Simmons. He broke 1 of Jewell. He's chased by Roby and hit by Harris. He's as quick as a hiccup. Takes it down to the 14-yard line. A 40-yard catch and run for Tyreek Hill.
Well, this is scary. I mean, if you're a safety for the Broncos and you see this flash of red bolt come across the screen, it gets your attention. Kevin, we talked about his rare and unusual speed and quickness. He can score from anywhere on the field. He is that dangerous.
Most touchdown receptions, 3rd most receiving yards. What a great weapon he is for Andy Reid. 1st down and 10. Hunt looking for a block. He got one from Irving, but there's no real estate to take advantage of it. He may be a football sling. He's at the 9-yard line, a gain of 5.
You look at Tyreek Hill just in his 3rd season. Kevin, especially the first year and a half, I just wasn't sure he'd be a number 1 or number 2 receiver. I just didn't think he had the size to be able to battle with some of these big corners, but he's developed into a really good receiver. And you got to give Andy Reid a lot of credit. They do some creative things to get him the ball in space, especially on the early downs.
That was his 11th reception of 25 yards or more. moments ago. Most in the NFL. 2nd down and 5. Touchdown, Kelce. 9-yard touchdown throw by Patrick Mahomes to his All-Pro tight end.
Well, this is just too easy. He's just going to run a post route. But look how far off the corner is. And look at all this open field in the middle there. You've got to, and in this part of the field, we're talking Travis Kelce. You've got to be able to jam him at the line of scrimmage and double him or play an in and out bracket type of coverage. That's where Mahomes wants to go with the football, down in the red zone.
Here's the extra point. Kansas City's got the lead 10-7. A 40-yard catch and run by Tyreek Hill. And what about Travis Kelce? His first touchdown reception in 27 days against the Broncos then and now. The 23 touchdown passes is number 1 in the NFL this season, but what interests me is that second line.
That's embarrassing. I was here 4 years, Kevin. I know I wasn't a starter, but still, I mean, this kid's done it in like 7 or 8 weeks. You know, he makes it look so easy. It makes me sick to my stomach. I had to work hard at it. He just goes out there and wing. I'll tell you what, though, as I said before, I've been doing this a long time. 17 years as a player, 14 years as a broadcaster. I don't remember a younger quarterback with more talent than Patrick Mahomes.
That's a big statement coming from you. Here comes Adam Jones. These are his first kickoff returns this season. And he'll get a block from Lacoste. And you can see what he can do when he gets the ball and taken down just near the 25. Brought down by O'Daniel, 25-yard return.
Well, Travis Kelce's scored a touchdown in each of his 3 previous games against the Broncos. Week 16 in the 2016 season, he goes 80 yards from Alex Smith. Week 8 last season, a 29-yard pass from Smith. And, of course, Week 4 this season, a 2-yard pass from Patrick Mahomes. And then again today. This guy is a special player. We talk about the fact that they move him around so much in the offense, and he is a handful in the middle of the field, especially on 3rd down and down in the red zone.
Lindsey is in 1st and 10. Demaryius Thomas, and he's hit by Kendall Fuller. And a gain of 9. He's up to the 35-yard line.
I think throwing the ball on 1st down and some play action shots against this secondary are a good thing for Keenum. He likes the play action game. They're running the ball well enough right now. And this is a Kansas City defense that's 31st against the pass. They've given up over 316 yards a game through the air.
Second down, 1 to Lindsey. Wow, out of red in there. Hard to find any room. You can see Williams at the bottom of the pile. There is no gain on the play. Williams out of Northern Iowa. Started the first 4 games at nose tackle. There's a look at Bob Sutton. He brings in the number 32 defense in pro football. It's been number 32 since week 1. But he feels slowly but surely finding some space. 3rd and 1 right now. Broncos 27th and 3rd down. The pitch to Lindsey from Keenum. He's got the 1st down and more. Exploding on the sideline. Murray throws him out of bounds. And he finds 14 yards near midfield and a 1st down for Denver.
Well, we saw Kansas City do it earlier in the game, and now we're going to see the Chiefs do it. And all you're doing is optioning off the end man on the line of scrimmage, and that's Speaks, the rookie. Just looking for a creative way to get Lindsey the ball on the edge.
Nice block by Sutton downfield right there. The rookie receiver out of SMU. Booker in 1st and 10. That's the receiver Patrick in motion. Turner holds him off on one side, but they come streaming in on the other, and there's Breeland Speaks. 1st sack for him in his career, the rookie out of Ole Miss. Losing 11 back to the 38.
Well, he holds it. You wonder why he holds it so long. Here's the pressure off the edge, but this is really a coverage sack. As you look down the field, you got to ask yourself, where are you supposed to throw the football? I mean, everybody is covered. It's just a good job by that Kansas City secondary.
Breland Speaks is starting today for the injured Justin Houston. Chiefs traded up 8 spots to draft Speaks in the second round, second down, and 21. Look at Lindsey exploding again by midfield and brought down by Dorian O'Daniel, another rookie. He's a third-round pick out of Clemson. A 13-yard jaunt right there to the 49.
You know, you think about the running back position. You know, first and second round picks. How do you just find a free agent on the street?
I don't know.
And he comes in and this guy's got a bright future. He's not that big, but boy, he's very decisive. He gets downhill in a hurry.
Five in the secondary, third down and 8 for Case Keenum. They get around Turner. They come up the middle. Ball was jarred free. Hit right there by Reggie Ragland. Denver got the loose ball back to the 39. It's a loss of 12.
Man, you look at this pressure. This is what you do. You got to collapse the pocket. How do you do it? You get pressure up inside and push up inside, and then you just walk right back into the quarterback. We talked about the ball security issues with Keenum.
Paradis jumped on that loose ball.
14 turnovers so far. 9 interceptions, a bunch of fumbles. He had just 8 all of last season.
Colby Wadman takes the place of the injured Marquette King. That's Hill drifting back to about the 11. He gets away from a couple, but not Shaq Barrett, who makes the stop for Denver's special teams. 4-5-6 on the 50-yard punt, losing 2. The Chiefs defense tightening the grip right there. 5:18 second quarter.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Ford. Built Ford proud. Pepsi, the official soft drink of the NFL. And by Applebee's new neighborhood pastas, eaten good in the neighborhood.
Earlier this month, the Broncos honored 26 schools across 15 districts in Colorado with the Touchdown School Award for their commitment to student health and wellness after their successful participation in the Fuel Up to Play 60 program. Worst beginning field position for the Chiefs after the punt by Denver. Mahomes with a 1st and 10. Good block by Fisher. Short and up the middle for Hunt with a read on it, the rookie Josie Jewell, and a gain of 5, and he's up to about the 13.
Well, let's take a look at the scouting report for Patrick Mahomes. He's got great vision. He sees the entire field. We talk a lot about his arm talent and strength. There's really not a part of the field that's a weakness for him in terms of throwing the football. He's got great mobility and escapability, ability to make plays with his legs. He's got great feet too back there in the pocket. In fact, if there's one negative, you talk to Andy Reid, he says at times he has a tendency to hop and bounce at the top of his drop. They're trying to coach that out of him right now.
Second down and 5. Kelsey. Davis in pursuit, moving around him, maneuvering to the 32. Kelsey gets more than half of his yards after the catch. An 18-yard catch and run, first down.
Well, watch him at the top of his drop with this little hop. A little bit of a hop. And they're trying to get that out of him. As Andy said, the more you're up in the air, the more you're hopping, the slower it is for you to get the feet back on the ground and be able to create that balance and torque to be able to get the ball out of your hands quickly.
Last 2.5 games for Mahomes, 9 touchdown passes, but 5 interceptions. Had no interceptions the first 4 games.
Hey, 35. The blue 80.
He's hit 6 in a row with the 1st and 10. They hold him off, and there he goes. And he's got his crushing receiver, Sammy Watkins. Brought down by Simmons, flag thrown, 24-yard catch. And the ball with some shoving after the play. Flag is down, and there you see Parks and others. Hill is down there. The ball is at the 45-yard line of Denver. But there was something downfield going, and the feisty Hill has to be restrained, as did Parks. And the discussion on the field among our referees and our officials. And there's Reed with his arm around him.
Look, before the pass was thrown, holding, defense number 22. That penalty's declined. The result of the play is a first down.
That's veteran Tremaine Brock with a hold.
The hold? And then some. And he didn't like it. Now he's trying to block him. He's trying to get a block for his buddy, and he takes him to the ground. That's excessive holding on the part of Jermaine Brock.
24-yard catch right there.
But honestly, you can't hardly fault him, Kevin. You can't let number 10 get by you. He is so quick off the line of scrimmage.
180.
It's a 1st and 10. Spencer Ware is in. Mahomes going deep. And now underneath. Nice acrobatic catch. Lassoed by Kelsey. Davis was there. Harris was there to the Bronco 34. We take you to New York and James Brown.
Sometimes better to be lucky than good.
That's right, JB. Cam Newton intended for Funches, tipped by Weddle, and caught by Christian McCaffrey. Lil Matt trying to serve the punch out on these guys. Scored 21-7, Panthers with the lead.
Back to Kevin Harlan.
That McCaffrey name is familiar in Colorado, isn't it, Rich?
Yeah, pretty special player. His dad was a great one for the Broncos.
15. Let's go 180. Right side.
It's a 1st and 10. Here comes Kareem Hunt. And he goes working his way into Jewell and others that are there to make the stop. Davis, gain of 4 to the 30.
Well, he scored 3 touchdowns and had 141 scrimmage yards last week against Cincinnati. And I had a great conversation with him. Kevin, you were there as well on Friday. He's got the longest streak of touches without a fumble, 457 prior to the start of this game. And the last and only career fumble came on his first carry ever against New England. You were there week 1 last year, and he told a great story about how he never touches the ball before the game, but he was over there with Alex Smith. He knew he was going to get the ball in the first place, so he went over and he wanted to grab the ball to get a feel for it. And he said, boy, this is pretty slick. And then he put it on the ground.
We've reached the 2-minute warning. Chiefs on the move, up by 3 on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by FedEx. Possibilities, what we deliver by delivering. And by Wendy's new Sawsome Bacon Classic Cheeseburger.
Nelson Atkins Museum coming up on the Verizon halftime report from our CBS studios in New York. JB and Company with scores, highlights, and news. In this week 8, that's all coming up on the Verizon halftime report. Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon, Steve Tasker, Rockin' Arrowhead. 2-minute warning, 2nd and 6.
Hey, Liz. Oh, red blitz. Hey, 35. Blue 80. Who's on?
Hunt in the backfield. Look at the time. Flag is thrown. Sidearm delivery brought in by Watkins. Chubb was there to the 30.
He's done a nice job with his cadence today.
He does, doesn't he?
Offside. Defense number 95. 5-yard penalty. Still 2nd down.
Well, I talked earlier, Kevin, in the game about Mahomes' ability to throw from awkward body positions and also to change the angle of his arm. You'll watch some of these throws where the receivers are on these crossing routes. Why he just kind of sidearm, just flips it out. And why does he do that? Because Domata Peko is jumping up in front of him with that big left arm. So the ability to find windows in those throwing lanes and to be able to change your arm angle, very impressive.
2nd one, here comes Hunt. And there's a block up front by Ryder and others, and he's inside the 15 to the 14-yard line. It's a gain of 11.
Well, we got a chance to watch Patrick Mahomes warm up before the game. Kind of unusual for quarterbacks. He starts with the long, deep ball. And the reason he does that was because his dad was a Major League Baseball pitcher, and that's what pitchers do. They throw the deep ball early, and then he goes into these different throws off the scramble, off of movement, sidearm throws, and good look at his father, Pat Mahomes, a great relief pitcher for a long career in the major leagues, and of course played for the Rangers and Pirates and Mets. I remember him as a Minnesota Twin, Kevin. That's just what I remember about Pat Mahomes.
Ware is in. Blocked by Fisher, blocked by Irving. Here goes Mahomes on the move, but he can't get away by Chris Harris's tackle. He gained a yard on the play. The 3-time Pro Bowler Harris had a good read on it.
Well, I thought he was going to throw a touchdown here, Kevin, and here's why. If you just go back and just keep an eye on this receiver down the bottom of the screen. As he gets outside the pocket, keep going. Now go ahead and freeze it right about there. Oh, he stepped out of the back of the end zone. But see, that's what I thought he had. In fact, Demarcus Robinson would have realized where he was at in the field, not stepped out of the back of the end zone, he may have had a touchdown. I don't know that Mahomes saw him there. And that's one of the things that really scares you as a defensive coordinator, talking to Joe Woods, the defensive coordinator of the Broncos. They don't want Mahomes getting outside the pocket. That's where he does most of his damage.
Mahomes has thrown a 9-yard touchdown pass to the tight end Kelsey. Chiefs have scored 10 unanswered. Ware in the backfield, 2nd down and 9.
Hey, rip. Hey, 35. There's a blue 80. Who's hot?
Patrick Mahomes. Touchdown, Sammy Watkins. 13-yard toss. Mahomes has thrown 2 first-half touchdown passes today.
Well, this is a great looking route by Sammy Watkins. This is an option route. And what he's going to do is they have the middle of the field open. He's got all this area to work. And he's just working on the linebacker. This is the matchup that they won on Todd Davis. And you're just asking a lot of your linebacker to try and cover Sammy Watkins one-on-one in the middle of the field. A good look at Pat Mahomes. Pretty excited about his kid. And he should be. Look at those numbers. 13 of 17, 172 yards and 2 touchdowns already for Mahomes.
Watkins last year a Los Angeles Ram. He gained 1,000 yards with the Buffalo Bills, who traded up and made him the 4th overall pick. Chiefs have not had to pay the big quarterback money, so they're filling up other areas, and they gave the big contract to Watkins, among others. And he is paying dividends for this offense. The extra point here by Butker. No good. So he misses. Butker misses his first PAT all season. It's a 24th touchdown pass of the season for quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs on top, 17 unanswered, 16 unanswered. Live look in our New York studios. The Verizon halftime report being put together for you by JB and Company. News, scores, highlights. The Verizon halftime next from CBS in New York. Boy, Butker had gone 33 of 33 with his PATs, missing there. 16 unanswered by the Kansas City Chiefs. Adam Jones lets it fly over his head, out of the end of the backfield, end zone, and to the 25-yard line with a 1st down and 10. Well, tonight, Jeff Glor reports live from the scene of the deadly mass shooting in Pittsburgh on tonight's CBS Evening News. Our clock at 54 seconds here in the first half. 2 touchdown passes by Mahomes. 9 and 13 yards. 1 to Kelsey, 1 to Watkins. 2 timeouts apiece. Chris Keenum with the 1st and 10. Booker in the backfield. Escaping. Keenum hits the deck about the 37-yard line. Brought down there by Murray with the touch, a gain of 10. They kind of think Keenum's better on the move, don't they, Rich? They were telling us last night.
Well, he's only 6'1". I think it's harder for him at times, Kevin, to see from the pocket. I think he's very accurate thrower of the ball outside the pocket, regardless of whether he's going to his right or his left. I just think play action is something that he's really good at. In fact, 40% of his throws last year with the Vikings were of the play action variety. I think you'll see more when you look at how well they're running the football right now as an offense. I think not only the play action, but also the boots, the nakeds, and the keeps are something that Keenum seems to like.
McManus has missed a 55-yarder today, his first miss of the season. We have a 1st and 10 coming up. There's a timeout, and they changed the mark on the field on top of that, and Keenum is kicked off.
Down.
They did not give him 10, they gave him 9, and that's the reason for the delay. The conversation, they move the chains. Watch where he begins to make the slide, what we're going to see in a minute. Maybe.
Well, that's where he's down, Kevin. The moment that he begins that slide, that knee or touches the ground, he's down.
Second down and 1. Booker back there with the fake to him. Blocked by Bulls. Downfield, what a catch by Sutton. He gets those 50-50 balls. He's inside the 25 at the 24, and he beats Nelson. 42-yard strike. 1 timeout remaining for Denver. Quickly huddling at the line. First down and 10. Keenum. From the edge they come. He moves up and avoids, and it's a one-hopper, and it's incomplete to Sutton. Again, covered by Nelson.
Boy, they really like Cortland Sutton, their second-round pick out of SMU. He's 6'4". He's 216 pounds. A little bit like Demaryius Thomas. He just runs right by Steve Nelson. Watch him go up and get it. That's what I like about Cortland Sutton. He's a big target on those go routes and down in the red zone.
Those 50-50 balls, huh, Rich?
Well, half of his targets have been those 50-50 balls, those 9 routes, those go routes.
Booker is in, second down and 10, well within McManus field goal range, but Keenum wants more. Second and 10, blocked by Turner. Here comes the pressure by Jones, and there goes the pass out of bounds. Third down and 10. Sutton was down in that vicinity.
Well, it's smart to throw it away with just the 1 timeout left. Well, you're talking to Bob Sutton, the defensive coordinator, last Friday, in terms of what they've got to do. He said, we've got to force the quarterback to sit in there in the pocket and make the tight contested throws. They're going to play a very high percentage of press man-to-man coverage, and they want him to sit in there and have to function as a pocket passer.
Booker, the running back, sits in the Kansas City secondary, third down and 10. And Keenum, and wide open, he's got his receiver. Tim Patrick with his first NFL reception this year, 24-yard touchdown pass. And he works on Ron Parker. Tim Patrick, a year out of Utah.
We just watch. I mean, somehow they blow the coverage. I mean, you look at these 2 safeties, and the safety up the top, he doesn't even, I mean, you've got to be as deep as the deepest. And he never feels Tim Patrick. The corner turns him loose thinking that Parker's back there, and it's just a blown assignment by the safety, Ron Parker.
That quiets the crowd significantly here. And the extra point is in. McManus, it is a 2-point game, 5 seconds to go in the first half, back in 30 seconds. After this from Progressive. Patrick from San Diego played at Utah. Did not play last season on the practice squad. He's played in all games this season. And that is his first, as we said, NFL touchdown reception. It comes at a great time in an all-important game for Denver.
And the Broncos have some big receivers. Kevin, you mentioned Patrick. He's 6'5". You've got Demaryius Thomas, who's 6'3". We talked about the rookie. Cortland Sutton is 6'4". Big targets for Case Keenum.
Tremont Smith will bring it out, the rookie out of Central Arkansas, and Shaq Barrett is there to snuff him at about the 18-yard line. No time left, and that sends a resounding message here in Kansas City. Broncos think a win today could turn their season around. The Chiefs have beaten them 6 consecutive times. We're at halftime. First half highlights from Verizon now on CBS.
Want more stats? Hey Siri, who leads the league in receiving yards?
Tyreek Hill is near the top as you take a look at some of our first half statistics here from Arrowhead.
Yeah, I think that touchdown drive for the Broncos, Kevin, right there before the half was huge. I think some momentum as they went into the locker room at halftime. Kansas City obviously gets the ball to start the second half, but boy, I just been so impressed with the way Patrick Mahomes has played. I mean, just you look at the numbers, 2 big touchdown throws in the first half, and this is a really good offense. They've got so many playmakers and weapons at his disposal.
Broncos are playing like a team that's got some urgency in front of it. Here's some of the offense of the Chiefs.
Yeah, you look at Travis Kelce. He's the target down the red zone, matched up against the cornerback Bradley Roby. They've got to do more to help in that situation. And then this one, you look at Sammy Watkins. They get the option route on the inside linebacker, Todd Davis. Again, you're asking a lot from your inside linebacker to cover a guy like Watkins, and courtesy of our 360 technology, I just love those camber angles when you get a chance to kind of slow it down and really see what the Chiefs are doing strategy-wise to be able to create some of those one-on-one matchups with their tight end and wide receiver.
Well, the Chiefs offense with no turnovers, no sacks allowed. They did miss an extra point. That could loom large. With a 2-point lead, Broncos offense, 2 pass plays, over 40 yards, 96 rushing yards. The Chiefs, who won the flip of the coin, elected to take the second half kickoff, and here we go. And deep back is Tremon Smith. He'll bring it out from about 2 yards deep, looking for a Damian Williams block. And knocked out of bounds across the way. Flag thrown. Josie Jewell makes the stop with the push on the special teams for the Denver Broncos. Busy day for our officiating crew.
Return. Holding. Return team number 51. 10-yard penalty. First down.
That's Frank Zombo, and we send it down to Steve Tasker.
Kevin, I spoke to both coaches at halftime. Andy Reid said we've got to do more on the inside defensively to stop their running game. But offensively, after the slow start, we feel good about where we're headed. On the other side, Vance Joseph said, listen, they have not done anything we haven't seen on film. We've got to stop them from getting behind us. We've got to keep them from getting the explosive plays. And on offense, we're going to stay aggressive and keep testing the cornerbacks of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Steve, thank you. Broncos defense opens in the nickel. 1st and 10 here from Mahomes. 2 touchdown passes so far. Hunt is wide. Empty backfield for Mahomes. That's brought in by Kelsey. A hit by Parks. It is a gain of 6 to the 23. Flag again thrown.
That's going to be on Denver. You know, if you're this Denver defense, you can't get confused with all the window dressing. There's a ton of
illegal use of hands to the face. Defense number 55. That 5-yard penalty will be enforced from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
5th overall pick out of North Carolina State, Bradley Chubb.
He's just working on the left tackles. Eric Fisher, and he gets him right up under the face mask and around the neck.
On the backfield with the 1st and 10. Here goes Hunt with a block by Schwartz. And a nice defensive play on that line by Wolf. Wolf has been playing well. He had a good game against Kansas City a month ago. In a 2-yard gain, they're out 2 with that Hunt run to the 24.
You know, as I was saying a minute ago, Kevin, before I got so rudely interrupted by the officials, you can't get confused with all the window dressing. There's a ton of pre-snap movement and misdirection that the Chiefs do. They want to get your attention and focus away from really where they want to attack, and it really forces a defense to make split-second decisions and adjustments right before the snap. But you've got to be able to focus in on concepts and personnel.
2nd down, 8. Fake to Hunt. Mahomes. Short, incomplete for Kelsey. He had Parks in back. He had Marshall in front. It's 3rd and 8 for the Chiefs.
And you can see Mahomes, he knew he had the matchup. Kelsey on Marshall, he just misses the throw.
Rich, it's kind of like a shell game, right? Is that what you're saying about this Kansas City offense?
It's a lot. You're right. They're not very complicated when you really break them down and study what they're doing schematically. But it's a lot about illusion and disguise. They run a handful of runs and concepts, but they do it with different personnel groupings each week, formations, motions, and it really can complicate things from a defensive perspective.
6 in the secondary. Ware was in. 3rd and 8. And there's Hill. Roby was defending. Catch is made at the 32, close to the 1st. Let's see where they're going to move the chains. He got it on 3rd and 8.
Well, a little out route. Just watch how quickly Mahomes gets this ball out of his hands. He gets the ball, he gets the grip quickly, takes a quick 2-step drop, and that ball is on Tyreek Hill. Oh, the Chiefs have been really good on 3rd down, and that's unusual with an inexperienced quarterback. Chiefs are 3rd and 3rd down conversions just under 50%.
10 consecutive completions by Mahomes. Here comes Kareem Hunt on 1st and 10, trying to wiggle his way free. Down there was Davis, who is holding on for dear life. Gain of 5 to the 37.
You mentioned holding on for dear life. you know, you can't arm tackle Kareem Hunt and expect to get him on the ground. He breaks so many tackles. He's so strong and powerful at the point of attack. And if you're not careful as a defensive player, he'll knock you backwards. You better bring your entire body and a few friends while you're at it.
Last year, the Chiefs had a 1,000-yard running back, tight end, and wide receiver. Just the 5th time in pro football history that's happened. 2nd down and 5. Hunt back there, the fake by Mahomes. Quick slide, here comes Watkins. Through traffic, grabbed from behind by Marshall. Ridden down after a 25-yard catch and run to the Denver 39.
Well, the Chiefs having a lot of success working in the middle of the field, whether it's the tight end or in this situation, Watkins against some of these linebackers. See Roby over the top, linebacker underneath. They just find that crease in the zone coverage between the linebacker and cover corner.
It's Hunt on 1st and 10. I think Gotts has probably got him around the ankle. Gain of 5. Rushing champion takes it down to the 34-yard line of Denver.
You look at the day that Mahomes has had, his last 10 attempts, 9 of 10, 2 touchdowns, a $152.
Kelce is on the sideline, and they're attending to him. Demetrius Harris is in there. 2nd down and 5. A lot of moving parts. False start, Chiefs.
It's the backup tight end.
False start.
Yeah.
Offense, number 84. 5-yard penalty. 2nd down.
Harris. Let's watch Kelce moments ago. Our cameras caught him. Just kind of a misstep almost more than anything.
Yeah, that's unusual. Self-inflicted wound.
We're good. Liz. Hey, rip.
You hear this, Liz, rip. That's a protection call for the offensive line.
2nd and 10, Schwartz the block. That's incomplete on the deflection. Davis was all over Hunt. Davis, who had a pick 6 in Arizona last week, comes up with a nice pass covering play right there, bringing up 3rd and 10 for Kansas City.
I've really been impressed with Todd Davis. He leads the team in tackles with 51 stops. They ask him to do a lot in the middle of that defense.
He was waived by the Saints back in 14. He's out of Sacramento State. 3rd down and 10. Where is the running back?
Hey, Mike, run. Mike 51, run. Mike 51, Larry. Hey, 15.
Kelce is back in. Mahomes hit as he throws, and it's caught, and it's Kelce, and it takes a couple to bring him down, including Simmons and Thomas. 18-yard catch on 3rd and 10 to the Denver 21.
Result of the play is a completed pass. Personal foul, roughing the passer, defense number 48. That 15-yard penalty will be added to the end of the play. 1st down.
Shaq Barrett, here's the catch first.
Well, I love how he sets up the safety, Will Parks, and then you see the late hit by Shaq Barrett.
It didn't fall on him.
Well, it was a hit to the helmet
Right,
area, and I think that's what they wound up getting Shaq Barrett on.
So it's 1st and goal. Hill caught 1 for 9. Watkins with a big 25-yard catch and run. Kelce right there for 18. Hunt is in. It's 1st and goal.
Let's go, 180.
Patrick Mahomes. Crossing pattern, Watkins. To the pylon. Touchdown. Watkins' 2nd touchdown reception today.
Well, these crossing routes have been really effective today. You're going to see Watkins come from the right side of your screen, just in a little under route. Mahomes is able to slide in the pocket and find a little crease in a throwing lane. Watkins having a heck of a day down in the red zone.
Chiefs are number 1 on the first offensive possession in the second half and for the game, with that extra point right there by Butker, who missed one earlier. It's 23-14 Chiefs. We start the second half with Watkins flying into the end zone on CBS. Rich, you kind of forget that Deshaun Watson did what he did last year for Houston in half the season, but you know the names Warner and Marino, and now Mahomes on top of them.
Well, that's elite company. You look at Warner and Marino, and how about the future of our game? With it's in the hands of some pretty good young quarterbacks in Mahomes and Deshaun Watson of the Houston Texans.
Here comes Adam Jones looking at the kickoff here by Butker, and he'll take it from about half yard deep. Drilling the play by the backup tight end Harris. 20-yard return. At the Global Down Syndrome Foundation's 10th anniversary, the Beautiful Be Yourself fashion show in Denver last weekend, actor Jamie Foxx auctioned off Von Miller's suit jacket, and it was purchased by Case Keenum, the quarterback. That, along with the second jacket that Miller's designer made, brought in $65,000 for the foundation.
Another like the sport coat you had on the other night.
It is. I did not pay $65,000 for it, though, as much as you liked it. 19-yard line, 1st and 10. Big block right there by Patrick on the run by Lindsey, and look what this does, and he gets another block downfield, and the flag is thrown. Sanders threw one. The gain to the 42, 23-yard run, and let's see where they put it.
Holding. Offense number 76. Half the distance to the goal. Replay first down.
Left guard Max Garcia.
Well, that's too bad. That was a good-looking run. You're going to see Garcia right in the middle of your screen there. I know it's hard to tell from that angle. Oops, excuse me. Yeah, right there. He just gets a little bit of a tug on the inside of the jersey of Noddy.
Garcia was being naughty.
Well, it's a big penalty. Pushes you back, 1st and 20. Crowd noise.
It's 1st and 19. Keenum, Sanders, great beat on it right there. Kendall Fuller, no gain on the play. They stay just shy of the 10. We kind of thought, Rich, that touchdown pass by Keenum to Patrick for 24 as the first half was concluding would serve as some momentum. The Chiefs have quickly taken that could be momentum and now swung it back to their own side.
They get the ball back and start the second half and drive right down the field and score. The second touchdown for Sammy Watkins, and now the Broncos find themselves down by a couple scores here in the 3rd quarter.
Into the nickel, 2nd down and 19. Keenum, and this is Lindsey. His move takes him out to about the 20. Get out of bounds by Parker. Another flag is down. Gain of 10 as it stands right there.
This one's going to be on Connor McGovern.
Illegal block in the back. Offense number 60. Half the distance to the goal. Replay 2nd down.
That's Connor McGovern, who's a starting right guard. He played at Mizzou, and he's 30 years in the NFL.
Well, he's right here, but this is not where the penalty happens. He gets out in front of the screen. You're going to watch him get out in front of the screen. It's good. He's in good position there, but right there, just a little push in the back. It's unfortunate. Really not necessarily. He tries to push the middle linebacker Reggie Ragland in the back.
Chiefs are going to have 6 in the secondary. Booker is in the backfield. Spot fouls. 2nd down and 23. And this is Devontae Booker. Spinning, driving. Sanders a block out to the 20-yard line. Brought down by a couple. 14-yard run. Hitchens, the leading tackler on the defense, with the stop After the 14-yard gain right there by Devontae Booker.
Well, you look at this 3 big plays of 20 yards or more have been nullified by a penalty. Go back to that big run just a couple moments ago from Philip Lindsay on first down that got called back and put him in a 1st and 19 situation. It's big 3rd down right here for the Denver Broncos.
They remain in dime, the Chiefs defense does. 3rd down and 9. Look out from the middle. Here they come, Chris Jones. 4th consecutive game with a sack. He throws him back to the 10. Loss on the play of 10. Here comes the Denver punting unit. Nice job by the defensive coordinator, Bob Sutton.
Just watch how they do this. He's going to block here. They're fanning out. And then what happens is he just beats him right across his face. Chris Jones is working on the right tackle there, Turner, and he just takes a poor set.
And this is a shank by the punter, Wadman. And it's going to be deep in Denver territory. They still haven't marked it. It's going to be near the 30, but here comes the defense. Chris Jones, who's off to a terrific start to the season. 4th consecutive game with a sack.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Just for Men. Be the better man and look the part. M&M's, always fun. And by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
The Beast here in Kansas City is America's largest haunted house. And Chris Jones kind of a beast with what he's done in the middle of that defensive line.
He's a handful, and he can be very disruptive. Good run support player, but he's really improved over the last couple seasons just in terms of changing up some of his pass rush moves.
22-yard punt by Denver. Mahomes 1st and 10. Look out, here comes Davis. And he throws it away. The Chiefs have been very good on a short field. 6 drives in plus territory, 5 touchdowns. Good move there by Mahomes to get rid of it because Davis was right in his grill.
We talked about the changes at center, and just watch this issue here with the center quarterback exchange. I mean, Mahomes doesn't get that cleanly, and he's fortunate to be able to scoop it up and get rid of it.
3rd different center in 3 weeks.
That's tough, Kevin. It's not just the communication. Some of it's the technique. You've got a quarterback that you haven't worked with. You've got a scoop block or a block where he has to jump to his right, and everybody's a little bit different.
Let's go, Blue 80.
With on in motion, 2nd down and 10 outside he goes. Davis with a beat on him. And then Brock was the one to hit him along with the linebacker, chasing him out there, and a gain of about 4 to the 29-yard line.
Yeah, sometimes good snaps don't matter. You go back to last week against the Bengals, and this is what I love about Mahomes. He doesn't panic, and he always seems to know where his quick answer throw is.
Rich, and sometimes he doesn't even use the laces,
no,
does he?
You're right. In the quick game, Kevin, a lot of times he just gets it and throws it. And that's just, you look at a play like last week, it just speaks to his athleticism and ability to create when they're non-rhythm plays.
Ware is in 3rd and 7. Quick hit. Caught by Watkins. Again in the middle. Right there to get him is Harris and others. Taking the hit. Also in there was Brock down to the 23. Close to a 1st. Let's give him a gain of 6.
I think his time clock is fast with how he plays the game. You look at Mahomes, he processes information so quickly. And I think it's unusual for a first-year starter. I mean, he knows exactly where he wants to go with the football. And I think if you're the Broncos, you've got to do a good job disguising your intentions. Because when he has time to set his feet, he can pick apart a secondary.
Well, they're going to go. Well, they were going to go for 3. The field goal kicker was out there with the holder. They quickly run back. They're going to go for it on
Look 4th. At the waste of timeout because Andy Reid a little bit late getting in. Mahomes couldn't hear it.
But is Reid the one talking to him in his helmet, Rich?
No, it's a great point, Kevin. What happens is, as you look at Andy Reid, to his right is the offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. And so what Andy Reid does, he calls the play to Eric Bieniemy, who used to be the running back coach, who's now the offensive coordinator after Matt Nagy left. and went to Chicago. And what happens is you look at the play sheet, it's the exact same play sheet that Andy Reid has. And Bieniemy has gone to great lengths to really learn not just the one particular area of the running backs. He learned the entire offense. And Reid told him last year, he said, I'm going to make you an offensive coordinator. And Andy told us on Friday he didn't think that Bieniemy believed him, but he's done a terrific job working with the quarterback and being an extension of the play caller, Andy Reid.
After the timeout, 4th and 1.
We're good. 1, 2, 5. Hey, color. Let's go wide.
Hill and Hunt in the backfield. Little shovel pass caught by Hunt. Broke a tackle of Roby. Hurdles him at the 5. Counted for a touchdown. Holy Toledo! 23-yard touchdown run.
Well, Kevin, we talk about this Kansas City offense. What do we say? Plays that look the same but are different. It's about illusion in disguise. Remember they ran the option earlier? Well, they faked the option, and this time they run a little shovel pass up inside. Look, you see the option. Here it comes. Nope. There's the pitch back up inside. And there's the jump that we saw a week ago against the Bengals.
He went over Parks. The second-year running back from Toledo, Hunt, who led the league, doing his best. Edwin Moses in to the end zone. Butker puts it through. This is like a video game, like you talked about, Rich, at the top. 5:12 to play in the third. Pick your poison. Hunt, Hill, Kelce. It's the hurdler. Hunt for 6 for the Chiefs. Kareem Hunt said, Rich, when he was growing up, his running back idol was Ricky Williams. He did kind of a Williams impression right there.
Well, you see some similarities in terms of the running style, Kevin, their ability to knock a defensive player backwards. When we sat down with Kareem Hunt on Fridays, he's not the biggest back, and he's 5'11", 215 pounds, but he's got low pad level, he's got strong legs, and he plays with great leverage.
Adam Jones out of the end zone, touchback to the 25.
And speaking of video games, and at times he plays like a young kid in the backyard. And look, he must have been a great hurdler in high school. I mean, this is insane. I mean, you don't think of a 215-pound running. If you're a defensive player and you're coming up for the big hit, and you go to lower the boom on this guy and he jumps over you, that's the last thing you expect from Kareem Hunt.
How about the landing?
Jeez, he nailed it. You get so consumed with Mahomes and Kelce and Hill that you forget about this guy. He led the National Football League in rushing a season ago.
Keenum on 1st and 10. Lindsey tripped up on the play. Not as far as Jarvis Jenkins, who makes the stop. Gain of 2. Flag is down as he's out to about the 27.
This is an important drive for Denver because
it is.
They're not a team that if they fall behind by 3 scores can, start throwing it a bunch. They have to be able to continue to run the football.
Number 61, 10-yard penalty. Replay, first down.
Interior of that line has been flagged today. This is on the center, Matt Paradis.
They're really just, you see the frustration from Vance Joseph. They're making things difficult on themselves and on the play caller. If you're Bill Musgrave, you're trying to stay in situations, normal down and distance, manageable situations on 3rd down. That has not been the case today for the Broncos.
It's a spot foul, so it's 1st and 18. Lindsey. He got by Ragland, and he's brought down by Murray. Up the sideline he goes. It is a catch and run of 13 to Steve on the sideline.
Yeah, one of the things we talk about is complementary football. One of the complementary things that's happened to the Chiefs' defense is the fact that their offense is being so inspired. Now they come out energized. The Denver offense, on the other hand, they can't get out of their own way. They've had more penalties in the last 2 drives than they've had offensive plays that count. That's one thing that has to change. Vance Joseph mentioned that at halftime, and it has not changed.
2 tight ends, 2nd down and 5. Janovich, a lead block there for Lindsey. He breaks the tackle, and he's brought down by Hitchens. The tackle he broke was from Noddy on that line. It's a gain of 8. It's a Denver first down out to the 38.
I think it's important not to panic. I look at the way Philip Lindsay is running the football right now, Kevin. It's certainly getting my attention.
I agree. He's explosive. He's the third leading rusher in the NFL among rookies.
He's averaging over 5 yards a carry right now.
He's got 12 carries and 65 yards, as you can see. He has a 100-yard rushing game this season. Fake to Lindsey, 1st and 10. On the cross right there, Matt Lacoste, who is brought down by Kendall Fuller. The gain to the 46. It's a pickup of 8 on 1st down.
We talked about moving the pocket, changing the launch point. Good look at the tight end working on the corner. Fuller. The throw from Keenum working to his left. He's got the time to set his feet, and that helps him make a more accurate throw across his body.
Devontae Booker is the running back, 2nd down and 2.
Boy, this guy's got to get going a little bit. Man, you got the looks you want.
Booker with a block by Patrick, and that's a 1st down run as he wheels his way to the Kansas City 47. Hit by a couple, including Nelson with the tackle. Gain of 8. 1st down Denver.
We say this every week in critical situations. You can't always think about plays. You got to think about players if you're the play caller. Now look at the way they're running the football right now with Philip Lindsay, but I also look at the fact that their best and most productive weapon on offense is Emmanuel Sanders. He leads the team in targets, receptions, and yards, and yet he's only got 3 catches so far in this one.
Denver's got 96 yards on the ground. 1st and 10.
There he is.
There he is. It's right. You called it, Rich. Sanders bumped on the play by Nelson, and obviously, ooh, that doesn't look good. 16-yard pickup, holding on to his wrist, down to the Kansas City 30-yard line, but assisting the current AFC Offensive Player of the Week, Emmanuel Sanders.
Well, as well as they're running it, the play action passing game has been very effective for Keenum.
That is not good.
Ooh.
Helmet, yep.
I think he just gets it right on the right
I
shoulder,
agree.
forearm area. Nice job. See at the end there, he switches the ball from his right arm to his left arm. It's a good alert play and a smart play by the veteran receiver.
So Patrick will be on one side. Sutton will be on one side. Patrick in basically his 1st year. Sutton is a rookie. It's 1st and 10. With a handoff here to the backpedaling run of Booker. Kind of the forgotten man among these running backs, with a hard-earned gain of 2 to the 28, because they've talked so much about the rookie Freeman, who is in a top 5 rookie runner. And Booker's been there 3 years as they assist Sanders on that sideline.
Well, it's too bad they don't have a healthy Royce Freeman, who's out with an ankle injury today, because Freeman and Lindsey have been a really good 1-2 punch. You think about Booker, he's more of the 3rd down back, or at least that's how he's been utilized in this offense.
Lindsey is in now. 2nd down and 8. Keenum. Bailey was pressuring the pocket. The wobbly pass caught by Sutton. He gets by Fuller, and then he's brought down by Eric Murray, but inside the 10, put him at the 7. Catch and run of 21, 1st and goal Denver.
Look, it's not always going to be clean in the pocket. This is a really nice job by Case Keenum. Watch the pocket close around him. Look at him slide, push. He's still able to keep the ball in a throwing position. That is a terrific throw by Keenum under duress. That's impressive.
And Rich, how about in the face of 2 straight Kansas City touchdowns to put together this kind of drive and not hoist the white flag?
This team's got heart.
Yeah, they sure
You could
do.
tell when you visited with some of the players last night. They know what's at stake in this one.
1st and goal. Keenum trying to get a free receiver. He's got his tight end. Hireman, did he hold on? He did not. Not out of bounds he goes with the coverage on the play by Parker. Keenum had hit 7 straight until that one right there.
You know, I almost thought for a second he was throwing this thing away, but he gave Hireman a little bit of a chance for this at the end. He gets the right arm on it, but that would have been asking a lot from the tight end.
One.
You need Sterling Sharp. He would have made that catch. Shannon Sharp. One of those Sharp brothers.
One of them. They're both good. Keenum has thrown 3 red zone interceptions this season. That is an NFL high. Devontae Booker in the backfield. 2nd and goal at the 8.
Great protection.
It is. Paradis with the block. Bowles with the block. Keenum with the throw out of the reach of Lacoste. In the back of the end zone, Murray was there. Keenum complaining someone was held.
Well, it's great protection, but when you have that much time to throw and you can't find anybody open, you got to give some credit to the Kansas City secondary.
Steve Tasker on the sideline.
Yeah, Emmanuel Sanders coming out on that last 16-yard catch. He's probable to return to the game with a shoulder injury. He's smiling. He might take the rest of this series off, but I think you might expect him back later in the game.
McKenzie is one of the receivers right now. 3rd down and goal.
Boy, these ends of the stadium, it's so hard to communicate. You see Keenum up there at the line of scrimmage.
Booker with a block by Garcia, weaving his way to the 8. Down at the bottom right there with the tackle was Jordan Lucas. They made a trade.
Might be 4-down
with
territory.
Miami. Yeah, that was a gain of 3. I think you're right. We'll find out in the 4th quarter because 3 are in the books. Mahomes 3 touchdown passes. Hunt a 23-yard touchdown run. Kansas City and Denver on CBS. We start the 4th quarter with the Broncos at the Kansas City 4. 4th and goal. Sanders is back in. Keenum high snap. And he's got him for the touchdown. What a catch by Ironman. First touchdown reception by the tight end this year. And a 4-yard laser thrown by Case Keenum.
Nothing fancy here. Just going to run a little stick route. And just a good throw by Case Keenum, low and away. Giving the tight end a chance to make a play in the end zone on the safety, Eric Murray. Again, Ken, I like the decision to go for it. Look, they're having a difficult time stopping them defensively. This is an offense, the Chiefs offense, are putting up 37 points a game. You have to be aggressive, and when you get these opportunities down in the red zone.
We're going for 2. That was a great catch by Ironman. My goodness.
This could make it a 1-score game.
In the backfield, they have Lindsey. Here he goes, and digging, turning, pushed on the play by McGovern. He did not get it. Just that close. Nice play by Hitchens and others. They tried for 2, they come up short, but they are still swinging. The Denver Broncos at 3-4, the Chiefs at 6-1. That means a lot to both midseason here on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. And by State Farm. Here to help life go right.
Fun to watch the little guys at halftime here at Arrowhead. The Chiefs, Rich, had a 3-and-out on their first drive. They have scored every possession since. 24-yard field goal, 9-yard touchdown pass to Kelsey. 13 yards to Watkins, 10 yards to Watkins. Hunt on a 23-yard run. They've scored every time but their first possession this afternoon. Mahomes has been on it.
It really has, and you know, the protection's been great. He's dropped back 27 times. He hasn't been sacked yet. We talk about the importance of ball distribution, whether it's Kelsey or Watkins or Hill. A great job spreading the ball around. But I really think it starts with the protection. When you think about that, you go up against a team that has Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, and you haven't been sacked. In fact, the Chiefs' offensive line, they've only allowed 1 second-half sack all season long.
And over 4 games now since Miller has had a sack on a Kansas City quarterback. 1st down and 10. Quick slant. It was caught on a dive by Watkins, having a good game today. Flag thrown. Parks on the coverage. Gain of 11 as it stands right now, up to the 36. Let's see what that flag is all about. And there have been many here this afternoon.
Illegal use of hands to the face. Defense number 29. That penalty's declined. The result of the play is a 1st down.
We talked about the challenges that this pass rush has had today, and Von Miller said it last night. He said this is the best duo of tackles in football when you look at Fisher and Schwartz, and they have struggled. In fact, Von Miller hasn't had a sack against the Chiefs in the last 4 games.
They may like a popcorn machine inside there as they constantly jumping around and trying to find that weakness. 1st and 10. Here comes Mahomes up in the pocket and downfield. He goes. It's picked off by Simmons. And Mahomes with the interception. Mahomes throws his 4th of the year. and his 4th in the last 5.5 games. Make it that is his 6th interception of the year.
Well, listen, this is a bad decision. Go ahead and freeze it right there, because what he's trying to do is he's trying to fit this one into the tight end. But the tight end has got help over the safety's got help over the top. You look at Will Parks, he knows he's got help from the safety Simmons. This is a force from Mahomes. That's good coverage by Parks. He's playing underneath, knowing that he's got help from Justin Simmons.
6 picks in 3.5 games for Mahomes, who had no interceptions to begin the season in the first 4 games.
He just got a little bit too aggressive in that situation. You fall in love with the tight end. Sometimes premeditated decisions. You drop back, you like Kelsey, you like the matchup, but you don't realize that they're really playing high-low coverage on the tight end.
Opportunity here for Case Keenum with the 1st and 10 after the Simmons interception in the secondary for Denver.
A false start.
Yep.
You get Bowles,
not
left tackle.
Yep, that's not a way to start.
Before the snap, false start. Offense number 72. 5-yard penalty. 1st down.
Steve, what do you have on the sideline?
Guys, we spoke to Vance Joseph yesterday. He told us, and he made the same observation you did, Rich. He said, listen, Mahomes does some things out there that you should not be able to get away with. He forces some footballs. He makes some decisions that most quarterbacks get punished for. He hasn't yet. We're waiting for the game when Mahomes' decisions somehow catch up to him, and that might have been the first one right there in the interception.
I think you're right, Steve. He got a little bit too aggressive.
Booker in the backfield. Here's a 1st and 15, looking for a Janovich block, and he gets it. And downfield goes Booker from behind, brought down by Murray. Down to the 40-yard line at Kansas City with a romp by Booker of 26 yards and a 1st down for the Broncos. Devontae Booker, who had only carried 13 times coming into today, with Freeman out with the ankle injury, a high ankle sprain. Booker with some nice runs, 9 for 78.
Boy, Denver has really run the football well. 159 rushing yards already in this one against the Chiefs.
Lindsey is in, a couple tight ends, 1st and 10. Not a lot there. The hit made by Ragland, throwing him for a 1-yard loss back to the 41. Let's take you to CBS in New York, and here's James Brown.
Connor capitalizing.
That's right. For those who thought Le'Veon Bell was Steelers' savior, don't worry. You got JC in your life. James Conner, 12-yard touchdown up the right sideline. He gets in. 96 yards in the game so far. Pittsburgh up 23-12.
Back to Kevin Harlan.
Connor's done a nice job, the Pitt Panther.
The first season, that first game between those two ended in a tie.
Right.
Week 1.
2nd down 11. Here comes Lindsey trying to knife his way, and stuffed as he goes between the tackles, and a hit right there by Nottie, the rookie. It is a gain of 2. He's down to the 39. Big 3rd down here, 3rd and 9 for Denver. They scored the last time they had it on a touchdown pass of 4 yards to the tight end, Hireman. Booker is in. It's 3rd and 9. They need the 30.
Well, here's a good matchup right here. You got your rookie receiver matched up on a smaller corner.
Steven Nelson. Around the edge they come. They got him, and it's a fumble. And the Chiefs have gotten the ball. Deep for the hit. Recovered by Allen. No, let's make it. Recovery by Breeland Speaks. And a flag. Speaks a big time recovery on a hit by Ford.
Holding. Offense number 72. That penalty is declined as a result of the play as a fumble recovered by Kansas City. 1st down.
It's the Chiefs' 4th sack. And it couldn't have come at a better time. Ford gets his 6th of the season. The strip sack and the recovery by the Chiefs.
We're back here in Kansas City, and the ball security issues continue to be a problem for Case Keenum. You look at those numbers, 9 interceptions. He's thrown an interception in each game this season, and the ball's simply on the ground way too much with Keenum.
Good job to Hunt, and forced out of bounds by the 3-time Pro Bowler Chris Harris. There's a gain of about a yard on the play to the 47. Tonight, meet the whistleblower who copied hundreds of incriminating documents from a bishop's secret archive. Find out what's in them. Plus, who is Yap? See and hear him only on 60 Minutes tonight. Keenum with the turnover, a fumble on a hit by Ford, recovered by the rookie Speaks, who's taken the place of Houston. 2nd down and 9.
Boy, Keenum was so good a season ago with the Vikings. He had just 8 turnovers last year for Minnesota.
Here goes to Watkins, who's working on Roby and works down the sideline and is down to the Denver 43 with the first down. A little catch and run at 10. They'll move the chains.
They haven't been able to get to Mahomes, and that's a big problem. He's had too much time to set his feet, and when the pass rush has gotten close, he's found a way to escape and get out on the edge.
Watkins for the 2nd time has gone over 100 yards receiving, 107 today on 8 catches. Against Pittsburgh, had 6 for right at 100 yards. First down and 10.
We're good. 15. The blue lady.
Fake to Hunt. Out to Kelsey. Good hands out there with Parks. Brought down by Davis. Leans his way near the 35 on a gain of about 8.
You know, when you think about this Kansas City offense, obviously it's Kareem Hunt, it's Travis Kelce, it's Tyreek Hill, but you kind of forget about the 4th option, the Sammy Watkins. And he's had a terrific day against this Denver defense. And he's been a very unselfish player. We talked to Andy Reid and some of the different staff members on Friday, and they said he's a willing participant in the running game. He'll get out there and block you. And like what he's done and what he's meant for this football team.
Into the nickel. 2nd down and 2. Hunt. Shaq Barrett's got him. Nice defensive play. Gotsis comes in there and gets him as well, with Chubb assisting, losing 6 back to the 41.
This looked like an awkward exchange between, you see the footwork there. They ran into each other. And that's how you get the negative run. You don't see a lot of negative runs with Kareem Hunt. You look at Mahomes, you look at that left wristband, and that's where he keeps all that information. They don't call the whole play into him, they call a number. They'll say 17, he'll look down at that wristband, and that'll give you the formation and the play. And he also wants to hear what the defensive personnel is, and that comes in from the sidelines as well from offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy.
Spencer is in, 3rd down and 8. Here goes Mahomes on the fly, trying to hit a small window, incomplete to Kelsey. Booker was there, Barrett in the vicinity. There was a lot of congestion down there about the 31. It is 4th and 8.
Good stop from that Denver defense, getting off the field after a turnover from their offense.
Dustin Colquitt has punted once today. That was on the first series. He's punted as few times as any punter in the NFL. His brother Britton, with Cleveland on the other hand, came in today.
They wore him out
54 times, the most in the NFL.
He ought to be paid per punt.
Isaiah McKenzie is back, activating him this week. And it goes into the end zone. With a touchback to the 41-yard punt. Time remains down by 10. A lot on the plate for Case Keenum on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Modelo Especial, brewed with a fighting spirit since 1925. United States Air Force. Experience more at airforce.com. And by Verizon. The best unlimited is on Verizon, America's most awarded network.
Heart of America here in Kansas City.
I remember taking the girls there, Kevin, to that very farm when they were kids, and I was a quarterback here in Kansas City. What a beautiful day here at Arrowhead.
And for the Kansas City punt, it's a touchback to the 20. This is Lindsey on 1st and 10. Janovich with the block, and he's into the secondary, and he's brought down on the play by Reggie Ragland, a former number 2 pick by Buffalo. Good gain of 11 on 1st down for the Denver Broncos to the 31. I like this Lindsey.
He's really a good runner, Kevin. He's decisive. He's downhill. He's not the biggest back. Boy, he packs a lot of punch. He's willing to go up in there and run inside, and that's what I really like about him.
He is on 1st down. Head down and crushes his way up to about the 36. A couple guys there, including Speaks. There's a player down, in fact, after that gain of 5.
He's got some swagger to him, too. You know,
Is that
he's a
Ragland?
confident runner.
That may have been Reggie Ragland. Well, I take that back. It's not. We have an injury timeout and 8:37 to play in the 4th on CBS. Anthony Hitchens was the down player. You couldn't see his number, and they're going to take him in. It's painful. Taking his place will be Ben Neiman, a rookie, free agent. On 2nd down and 5, Lindsey again chugging up the middle and brought down that time by Breland Speaks on a gain of 5 up to the 41.
You know, when you have a defense that's ranked dead last in football, I think it's important to have a good perspective, and Bob Sutton does. You know, he said to us on Friday, with the way our offense is playing right now, we just need to get a couple stops on defense each week. And I think the players on defense have a ton of confidence in the offense.
Flea flicker, Lindsey back to Keenum, and Keenum downfield and knocked away and picked off on the play by Fuller. What a theft! Right in front of Thomas. Keenum with the interception.
Well, you look at Demaryius Thomas, I don't know that he ever feels the defender trying to crawl back underneath him, Kendall Fuller. And Fuller thinks that ball is intended for him. I think the fact that the toss back to the quarterback was high didn't help, but Keenum not at all happy with how that turned out. I think Demaryius Thomas could have helped him by flattening the route and cutting off the angle for Kendall Fuller.
Case Keenum has thrown an interception in every game this season. 10 now for the year. Chiefs take over their 45, 1st and 10. Kelsey a block, and then they come with Von Miller and Chubb with a flag. Back at the 38. First sack for Miller against a Kansas City quarterback.
Offense number 71. That penalty's declined. 2nd down.
In over 4 games.
I just watch this. Watch the duck move here. He's working on the right tackle, Schwartz. Watch right
Look
there.
at that.
See him duck?
Yeah.
We saw him do that last week on the road against Arizona. He's got the ability to kind of manipulate his body and get skinny and get short around some of those big, long offensive tackles.
It's 2nd down and 16 to fake the hunt. Oh, that was almost picked off on the play by Tremaine Brock. He had it. There's a flag. Late flag thrown after the incompletion. And near interception.
Just watch right there.
After the play was over, there was personal fouls by both teams. Number 75 of the offense, number 93 of the defense. Those fouls offset. The down counts. It's 3rd down.
There is no 93. I think it was 96 on the defense.
I think it's 95. I think it was Derek Wolfe.
Shelby Harris. Let's see if we can spot it.
Well, it's Cam Irving, and I think it was Derek Wolfe. They got in a little shoving match. And
the ball is at the 39. It's 3rd and 16. They're going to review the last play. Rich, I think you're right. I think it was Wolfe. We'll be back in 30 seconds after this from Lowe. We just looked at the replay. It was Derek Wolfe who was involved in that altercation. 3rd down and 16. Ware and Sherman in the backfield. Here they come once again. There goes another flag. And Mahomes on the move. And He'll hit the fullback, Anthony Sherman, with Simmons right there near the 49. 10-yard pickup. Flag, as he was dancing, was thrown.
I think they're going to get Cam Irving for holding. He gets beat across his face.
Holding. Offense number 75. 10-yard penalty. Replay, third down.
The left guard, Irving.
He's right here, and he's going to get beat across his face, and then what he does is he grabs a hold of
Shaq Barrett. So now the ball's back to the Kansas City 29. It's third down and 26, and the Chiefs need the 45 of Denver for the first.
Look for something quick, a screen or a draw or something that gets out of the hands of Mahomes quickly. All you're trying to do is get some of the field position back here and get your punter out there.
Denver has changed its mind and has decided to decline the foul. It's fourth down.
So fourth down, as Vance Joseph had to think about it. He makes the decision to decline. It is fourth down. And Colquitt and the Chiefs will punt with 7.5 to go. And Joseph and the Broncos down by 10. And Isaiah McKenzie, who played 11 games with Denver last year, signed off the practice squad this week. All 5'8" of him is back there to retrieve the Colquitt punt.
That's a difference of almost 19, 20 yards in field position. Not so sure I would have done that.
Winchester the long snap. Colquitt the punt. McKenzie at the 10. He can be slippery, and he takes it out to about the 12. Hang time of 4-3. 41-yard return. CBS Super Bowl season continues next Sunday with a bitter rivalry between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Chiefs will take on Baker Mayfield and Cleveland. Late game, Chargers at Seattle. Check your local listings and kick off your day with the NFL today at noon Eastern on CBS. Houston, riding a 5-game winning streak, will take on Denver next week. Big games all over the NFL. McKenzie is the one down and holding on to his hip.
Well, the Broncos need more from Case Keenum here, Kevin, in the fourth quarter. He's turned the football over a couple times. He's put it on the ground a couple other times as well. And you look up at the scoreboard and you're only down 10 with over 7 minutes to go in this game. You could put together a good drive here. You could make this thing very interesting. You put your team in a position to at least have a chance to win it at the end.
It's kind of a weird week for the Broncos. The trade rumors are swirling around the team. The backup quarterback was arrested and later released by the team. The Halloween party kind of gone wrong. A family fight for Broncos ownership is in the headlines. A lot of distractions following this team into Arrowhead today.
Well, distractions are never a good football thing for a football team. But I give Vance Joseph and John Elway some credit, Kevin. They addressed the situation with Chad Kelly quickly and efficiently. They've moved on. And that's the way it is. They've got Kevin Hogan behind Keenum now. And it's a costly mistake for Chad Kelly.
Keenum on 1st and 10, a crumbling pocket and from behind. He's brought down by Ford again. Down at the 12. As Ford climbs on his back, had a sack the last series. It's another sack right there.
Well, he's going to start up the field, and then he winds up working back underneath once he sees Keenum step up in the pocket. Working against Turner now. Once he feels the quarterback come back up underneath, he's able to peel back off and get the sack.
Second down, long 10. Chiefs operating with the nickel. Lindsey gets the call. Takes it out near the 20-yard line with a couple guys out there, including Dorian O'Daniel, with the stop on a gain of 8 out to the 20-yard line of Denver. 3rd and 2. Last two possessions for the Broncos. Fumble by Keenan.
Obviously 4-down territory for the Broncos.
Fuller picked off Keenum last time. 3rd down and 2. Running back is Booker, and the Chiefs in the nickel. Booker. Great read outside by the rookie Dorian O'Daniel.
They lost yardage.
They sure did. They lose 2. Back to the 18.
Well, boy, even if they could have gotten half of it, they at least would have had a decision. They wind up losing 2. You look at the safety with the linebacker O'Daniel. He closes in a hurry. He sees that and sniffs that one out quickly.
He was a terrific player at Clemson. Played a lot of nickelback. Plays the pass covering linebacker for the Chiefs in later downs. Chiefs lost linebacker Terrence Smith last week. Here is the punt by Wadman. And Hill will dance on the sideline. Stays alive. And then brought down by a couple, including Jewell, who comes down and gets him. 4-yard return, 57-yard punt. And Hill gets up a little bit lame. Super Bowl 32, Packers and Broncos. John Elway helped the Broncos win their first Super Bowl title in franchise history. The famous helicopter run. That was on a 3rd down in the 3rd quarter. Broncos go on to a win, 31-24. John is there. He is. This season, CBS is the home of Super Bowl 53.
We're talking about quarterbacks with great arm talent, Kevin. That's a guy right there that could make every throw look easy.
It's Hunt, who's wrapped up immediately by Shelby Harris on that line. 4th-year player out of Illinois State. It's a loss of a yard. Hunt is thrown back to about the 26 on a day where his quarterback Mahomes is thrown for over 300 yards again.
It's all been through the air. You know, you look at this Denver defense, they were 31st against the run. They've actually done a pretty decent job with the run defense. Where they've been victimized today is through the air, as you mentioned, Kevin. They were a top 10 pass defense coming into today's game, but the pass rush simply hasn't been there, and they've given up a lot of explosive plays on the back end.
Mahomes has now got 7 consecutive 300-yard passing games. 2nd down 11, Hunt. And Miller grabs him, finished off by Davis, gain of 3 near the 29. Timeout taken by Denver. In the game played back in Denver on October 1st, it was Kareem Hunt's 4-yard touchdown run that capped a Kansas City comeback after Denver blew a 10-point 4th quarter lead in the first meeting. Chiefs, as we've told you, have won 6 straight over the Broncos coming into today. We mentioned earlier that Mahomes has now gone 7 straight with over 300 yards through the air.
Hey, let's go lay up.
It's 3rd and 8 right here with Hunt in the backfield.
Lay up. Let's go. Sunday.
On the side, they come in with DeMonte Thomas. Nice move by Thomas right there. Signed September 11th. 2nd sack on Mahomes. They'll drive him back to the 23.
I don't think Mahomes ever feels him. He just comes right off the edge. He's unaccounted for, and he turns back and gets a surprise. He never feels DeMonte Thomas. Good timely blitz from Joe Woods.
There is time, as you can see, 4:12 to go. Adam Jones is back at the Denver 25. Awaiting the Colquitt punt. Colquitt comes in, number 2 in gross, number 1 in net. Jones will wave it off. And it'll die right around the 35-yard line. So, Rich, walk me through what Keenum and that offense have in front of them right now.
Well, they're running out of opportunities, Kevin. They've got to make something happen with 4 minutes to go in the game. I mean, they're still in it. You know, they've got to get a quick score here and then get the ball back. Their defense is finding a way to get off the field on 3rd down, but Keenum's got to do a better job taking care of the football and pushing it down the field. I mean, you look at in critical situations, Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, these guys have to be able to make a play against man-to-man coverage.
Booker in the backfield with Hireman. It's 1st and 10 for Case Keenum. Outside he goes. Good read by Dorian O'Daniel, the rookie from Clemson who won a national championship there, all over the running back out of the backfield. Booker and a gain of 1.
Now they've got to go. They've got to jump into their hurry-up tempo offense and as many plays called as possible.
2nd down and 9. Turn of the block at the right tackle in time, and this is Sutton, who will try to work into Nelson, but does not get out. The clock continues to tick. Denver with the timeout. That's a 15-yard pickup.
And the Chiefs in no hurry to get back to the line of scrimmage.
1st down and 10 for Case Keenum. Moves up nicely. There goes Bailey after him, and downfield he goes. And Demaryius Thomas working on the defense of Orlando Scandrick. It is incomplete, deep in Chiefs territory.
Just ran out of room on the boundary. He's not able to get both feet in. See that left foot.
He gave it a shot, though, didn't he? For a ball that was pretty wide.
Yeah, in this situation, Kevin, if you're Keenum, you've got to give these receivers a chance to go up and make a play. It's not going to be perfect. Checkdowns here don't help you. You're better off throwing the ball away on 1st down or 2nd down. You're going to pick up 2 or 3 yards and get tackled in the field of play.
Thomas, by the way, has been shut out here in the 2nd half. 2nd down and 10. A congested pocket. A shovel pass. Here goes Booker, and he's got the 1st down from behind, brought down by Speaks. Takes it to the 34. 14-yard pass completion.
Really good alert play from Case Keenum off the scramble.
It's 1st and 10. This is the tight end Lacoste, and he's brought down by Ron Parker. Gain of 8 right there.
There's other ways to stop the clock.
Kansas City 27. Booker in the backfield. Outside they go. Lacoste again in front of Parker, out of bounds at the 20. 2:22 to go. Gain of 6 right there. Clock is stopped.
Let's go back and look at this good alert play by Case Keenum. He's got the wherewithal to just field Devontae Booker on his right shoulder, and he just flips it to him before he crosses the line of scrimmage.
Right before he crossed the line. That was close.
You mentioned, Kevin, there's other ways to stop the clock. You can clock it, a receiver can get out of bounds, a defensive penalty, a throwaway. Keenum's got to be smart in this situation.
Lindsey in there. He gets the call. 1st down and 10. From behind, he's brought down by Ragland with a gain of 2 and did not get out. He's down to the Kansas City 18.
They should be able to get another play off before the 2-minute warning.
2nd down 8. Got the snap away and going to the end zone, and there was Nelson. Was he in? No, on the chalk and incomplete. Looking for Demaryius Thomas.
A good alert play by Demaryius Thomas, Kevin, pushing him out of bounds before he can get that 2nd foot in.
It'll be 3rd and 8. Mahomes 3 touchdown passes today. Chiefs on top.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Pizza Hut, official pizza sponsor of the NFL. And by Bud Light, reminding you not to drink and ride your horse.
Denver took over at their 36 with 4 to play. 9th play coming up. 3rd down and 8. They've got Booker in the backfield. They need the 10. Keenum hit, grabbed, throws it away. He had Ford right on him.
A good smart
Draped
play.
on him.
Really a good smart play by Case Keenum, not taking the sack in that situation. And now they can kick a field goal and still be a 2-score game. Kevin, they got a chance to kick the field goal and try for the onside kick. Now, I would tell you what the rule change is with the kickoff. It makes it that much more difficult for these onside kick attempts. There's been 20 attempted this year and just 2 converted. You know, you're not allowed to move around. You've got to line up the 34-yard line in a stationary position. It makes it much more difficult on the kicking team.
McManus tried and missed an earlier 55-yarder. This from 36. The wind has died. The kick is good. It's a 7-point game with 1:48 to go. Taking over at their 36. On that 10th play, they get the field goal from Brandon McManus. It's a 7-point game. Mahomes has thrown a pick and thrown 3 touchdown passes. Hunt has had a 23-yard touchdown pass. Case Keenum has thrown a 4-yard touchdown pass to his tight end, a 24-yard touchdown pass to Patrick, his receiver. And they got a 1-yard touchdown run by Lindsey. In there, they missed a 2-point try.
We talked about these onside kick attempts, Kevin. They're tough because remember in years past, you'd get 3 guys on one side and 7 on the other. You motion them over, the kicker would start one way.
Right.
Now with the rule changes and obviously the changes to emphasize safety really makes things difficult on these onside kick attempts. There's been 20 tried so far this season and just 2 converted. We'll see the biggest reason for these changes is kickoffs are the highest rate of concussions, 4 times higher than any other play in football, and so
let's watch what McManus does here.
There you go. It
fell.
It's maybe a good omen. So you have to have 5 players on either side of the kicker, and they all have to be lined up at the 34-yard line, and you can't have any pre-kick movement. And so that makes it more difficult for them to get down there as quickly at the 10, the 10 yards to cover.
Brandon McManus. Onside kick. And recovered on the play by Sherman, the fullback. And he was tackled on the play by Shamarko Thomas. And the Chiefs will take over at the 36 of Denver.
Really nice alert play by the fullback, Anthony Sherman. This is like the shortstop. Watch him scoop this up. Watch him get himself in position, get low, good knee bend. He's able to scoop that up. Look at that. That was a really good play by Sherman. A lot of receivers and running backs and tight ends on that onside kick team to the good hands team.
Today he's playing Sherman in his 88th consecutive game. Hunt in the backfield. He never fumbles. First down and 10. Oh boy, body's moving. There's Conley on top.
It's the second time Conley's jumped today, Kevin.
I think they just called a false start. You're right, Rich.
Shouldn't happen.
False start. Offense number 17. 5 yards. First down.
Coming up in the State Farm postgame show from New York, join JB, Phil, Nate, Boomer, and Coach Cowher. Scores, news, and highlights. A busy week 8, all coming up on the State Farm postgame show. We've talked about what the Kansas City offense has done today. The Chiefs defense, 5 sacks, ties a season high. Ford has had 3. First and 15. Hunt. There they had the defensive back, or the defensive lineman Von Miller making the stop. Playing linebacker, puts his hand in the dirt. Here is how they got things started with the Kelsey touchdown reception and Watkins.
Yeah, all the talk coming in was about Patrick Mahomes, and rightfully so. 24 of 34, 303 yards, 4 touchdowns, just the 1 turnover, and he's been incredible. Certainly a favorite at this point anyway for the postseason MVP award. He's having that type of season for the Chiefs.
Denver just used their final timeout. 1:41 to go. Second down and 10. Kareem Hunt has carried the ball today 14 times. Now a 15th with the block by Fisher, a block by Irving, and brought down by Chubb and others with a gain of 3. He has not fumbled, Rich, Hunt, in over 470 consecutive touches.
He was not happy when we brought that up on Friday. He was a little concerned that we were going to jinx him, but he carries the ball high and tight. He talks about it a lot in practice. It's a point of emphasis. He doesn't swing it. He's got great respect for that football and knows the importance of taking care of it, especially when he's in piles.
The officials have stopped the clock. Denver is out of timeouts, as we said, and Sean Hochuli with a discussion on the field with 1:17 to go.
We'll reset it.
The play clock mistakenly stopped. Please reset the game clock to 1:30, the play clock to 32 seconds, and both clocks will start on my signal.
So the Kansas City Chiefs, who come in 6-1, the top team in the AFC. First place, obviously, in the AFC West, and undefeated at home, 3-0. Coming in and taking on Denver. They've beaten the Broncos 6 consecutive times, including earlier this season, as Denver blew that 10-point fourth quarter lead, and the Chiefs won October 1st, 27-23. Today, Mahomes has thrown 3 touchdown passes, 2 to Sammy Watkins. Hunt with an acrobatic 23-yard touchdown run. There have been touchdown passes, 2 of them by Keenum, of 24 to Patrick and 4 yards to Hireman. And Lindsey ran one in from a yard. 3rd down and 7. With Hunt. Miller trying to grab it away and then finally hit on the play, as you can see, by Parks on a gain of 2. Denver is going to get the ball back. The Broncos came into this one feeling, Rich, that a win here could turn their season around. They come in 3-4. They're coming off a big win Thursday night against Arizona 10 days ago. Yeah, but the turnovers were costly, and it's a problem for them right now. Just the quarterback's putting it on the ground, a couple interceptions, and that's what they've got to get cleaned up. Okay. So, Rich, it's 4th and 5. They can run the clock to about 14 seconds, 13 seconds to be exact. In Denver, well, they've got a couple choices. I mean, yes, they could kick a field goal here. They can take it down and punt it. You've got one of the best inside the 20 punters in football, but regardless, Denver's only going to have a chance for 1 or maybe 2 plays at the most. Denver does have 3 blocked kicks this season. So they have had a chance to get to the punter and the kicker this year. Clock is at 13 seconds. No timeouts for the Denver Broncos. And Colquitt is back to punt for the Chiefs. He'll get this off so quickly your head will spin. Adam Jones is back at the 10. Winchester, a very good snap. That ball is high. And it takes a Denver bounce and picked up by O'Daniel. They have time for 1 play. Yeah, 17-yarder, 4 seconds remaining. Well, you've probably been in this position before. What are you thinking if you're Keenum? Well, I have been in this position before, Kevin. I can tell you that I can't throw it 80 yards, and neither can Case Keenum. So what you've got to be able to do is, the hook and lateral, something creative. Sometimes you put 3, so the ball's about in the middle of the field, or I'm sorry, it's in the left hash. So you can put 3 receivers to the right. And sometimes I'd rather throw the ball to the left with the single receiver. You have less bodies over there. That's right. An option. And obviously you'd like to throw it to a taller receiver, and you've got your rookie out here to the bottom of the screen, Cortland Sutton. He's a taller receiver. Maybe give him a shot to go up and make a play. It's 1st and 10 for Keenum. They get it out to Booker. He looks for a block. Hireman there with the block. He stays alive. He wants to pitch. No one is there. He gets it back to Patrick. Patrick will throw it back to Emmanuel Sanders. Sanders will dance and drive. He'll throw it to Sutton, but it's over his head. Clock at 0. Game is over. The Chiefs have won. And they have beaten Denver for a 7th consecutive time. On a day where their defense sacks Case Keenum 5 times. And their quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, throws 3 touchdown passes. And the Chiefs go to 7-1, beating their division rivals 30-23. The Chargers riding back at Kansas City, Denver to 3-5, halfway through the season. Mahomes with some big plays, some big passes, and he throws for over 300 yards for the 7th consecutive game. 3 sacks for Dee Ford. Coming up next, the State Farm postgame show. For Rich Gannon and Steve Tasker, Kevin Harlan saying so long from Arrowhead. We'll take you back to New York for all the scores, all the highlights, and all the news of this Week 8 in the NFL. Right after this.